Hi, Liz. It's
Oh,
so nice to be chatting with you today.
nice to see you. Hi.
I am from Catholic News Agency, and I will get started. So there was a really beautiful moment, I feel, like in episode 6 this season where Mary's sort of telling Jesus like that she's kind of sad or just like feeling not right, and Jesus tells her that's because you've been listening. And I just thought that was so beautiful. Can you tell me kind of what is Mary going through this season? Because I feel like she is the only one who's like picking up what Jesus is putting down.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a few characters that are following him that are aware that things are going a certain direction.
Mhm.
And that Jesus is aware of this and knows this and has like accepted this. So in turn, we must accept this too. Little James and Thaddeus both have this beautiful scene with Jesus too, where they're like kind of spelling out like, is this what you mean? Is this what's going to be happening? And there's a really sad and sweet moment where I think they're realizing it and coming to terms with it. Mary has less of a, I think, direct conversation about all of this, um but there are so many events that occur in this season that are really shocking to the entire group and heartbreaking, and everyone's going through their own process of grieving a number of things. And I think because Mary has so much experience with grief and has processed so much in the past and is not unfamiliar with this process, that she has a very unique perspective, and that she knows that we don't always get to understand why things happen the way they do. But she also knows that there is light now because of Jesus. There is peace now, and no matter what happens, like because of him, things are so much better no matter what. Even with grief, there will always be grief. There will always be pain. But now we also have peace. We also have Jesus. So I think there's this perspective that only she has at this point, because she's been directly healed by him, in a way that she was one way before him and another way after. And so there's a trust there and a patience there. And then as everyone's trying to sort of struggle to make sense of it all, I think there's a patience within her and a she's she's becoming this observer, this witness and this observer. And so when we get to that point that you're talking about, um she has that sense of things hurt. Though, and things are going in a direction that maybe she doesn't even know how to verbalize yet, and maybe nobody knows how to verbalize yet. But we season or episode 7 and 8 are coming out soon, and there's more to her thoughtfulness and her processing of these events that she finally gets to share. There's some really exciting scenes coming up that go deeper into this that I can't myself go into.
I'm
So,
sure I
you know.
can't wait to see the finale. I'm sure it's going to be beautiful, like always. Um, I feel like Mary has had like a really beautiful character arc from season 1 to 4. How would you describe her growth and change in the past 4 seasons?
I mean, we meet her at that lowest point of despair, and she's suicidal. She's you know doesn't doesn't know how to go on. And so we see her redeemed. We see her changed. We see her um, quite happy, quite peaceful, um, and kind of okay with not understanding how or why, which I think is a lovely gift. um, and and then we see her triggered in season 2. We see her kind of fall back to her understanding of things, her old ways, and out of fear and maybe lack of self worth, and um, And so we see this very realistic portrayal of growth, which is so often two steps forward, one step back.
Mhm.
And this time she is lucky that she has wonderful people surrounding her and caring about her and looking for her, searching for her when she's gone and bringing her home. And, like she's in such a different place now that even if she falls, she's pulled back up. She's with the help of others. And when she returns to Jesus and discusses this with him, he gives her this beautiful line from season 2. I think it was episode 6, where he's like, "You're not going to be perfect right now. Don't expect to be, or don't, beat yourself up over not being perfect." Not his direct words, not his exact words, but paraphrasing. But he says, I just want your heart, and the Father just wants your heart, and start there in your growth. And I think from that moment onward, she does this very patient sort of process of growth, and sometimes that includes still holding on to shame from the past, and still not feeling like she's worthy. And she's kind of called out by Tamar in season 3, where she's like, Jesus forgave you, you need to forgive yourself. um you need a little bit more confidence. You need a little bit, like, you belong here. And I think from that moment forward, she starts really applying that of look, you aren't who you were, and you aren't what you've gone through, and you're here now, and you're part of this group now. And I think in season 4, we really see that version of her, where she feels confident in being in this group, and she feels comfortable sharing her opinions and her thoughts on things. And those thoughts are sometimes what is needed and what is helpful for others to process their own grieving. And it's a beautiful story to show how our worst parts of our lives can be used to bring comfort and connect and recognize pain in others to help them through their difficult time. And so it's just a really lovely full circle for her to get to use that pain for something really beautiful.
Right, definitely. Is there something that you have learned from Mary Magdalene while portraying her?
All of that. I mean, I think this woman, what we see her go through in episode 1 of season 1, it's the worst. She is possessed by demons. She is not herself. And in any other circumstance, that would be her fate. Nobody would give her any sort of grant her any sort of like forgiveness for anything she does, because that is who she would have been if she wasn't saved, if she wasn't redeemed. And um and we get to see this person who's going through something that isn't her. She's possessed by something. It's not who she is. She's seen by Jesus. Jesus sees past all of that and through all of that into who she really is, which is her heart, and who she is to him, which is a follower. And she gets to, have this complete new fresh start. And I love how human that start is, where it's still very messy, it's still very human. And you can keep trying and failing, but you have to keep trying. And we see her do that. We see her keep trying to get better and be a better follower and student, and um an observer and listener. And I for me, that's been beautiful to get to play that, and also get to apply it to my own life of um this almost permission to grow. You don't have to be the person that everyone expects you to be, or wants you to be, or has seen you as. Like, we are allowed to change, we are allowed to grow. And that's such a beautiful gift, because that's the whole point of life, is to keep growing and keep trying to get to be a better person. And that means caring for others. It means focusing less on yourself and your own pain and your own past, and more on others. And I think that is the goal that Mary really represents to me, and that's the goal of what our lives should be too.
Exactly. Yeah, I completely agree. You have talked about how you almost gave up on acting right before you booked the job to play Mary Magdalene. Um, how has your, how has your life been? How has your life been impacted? Your faith been impacted by being a part of the Chosen and playing Mary Magdalene?
I mean, yeah, I was about to I was about to quit acting. Um I was not booking enough things to make enough for a living. I was living with my mom, which was wonderful, but not where I was expecting to be. Um and the things I was booking, it was like commercials. So creatively, I was just so frustrated, and I just couldn't see the path forward. I couldn't imagine what was next. And that can lead to some feelings of despair um and sort of just sense of being lost in the world. Um and booking this, it was such a I had such a direct connection and emotional relationship with this character. So much so that I was like, this is uncanny. This is weird. This is like spooky. um, that it was immediately this sort of like wake up, this sort of um it shook me out of a mental fog, I think, or of a maybe a spiritual fog of I was very cynical before this. I was really skeptical of things and cynical of things. And um I only saw I think the bad in religion and churches and the hypocrisy and the abuse. And like I was very disappointed, I think, in some church experiences and some interactions with very devout church going people. And so I kind of just like threw the baby out with the bathwater. I thought this is hypocritical, and this isn't the Jesus that I grew up with. This isn't the Jesus that I want him to be, which is what I think that the Chosen has portrayed, which is this revolutionary, politically antagonistic, um, both bringer of peace and also a disruptor of society and culture. And I love the way he's been portrayed, and I love how these stories that sometimes get maybe misinterpreted or overlooked, even these all these healings, all these miracles, and then also all of his lessons, the Sermon on the Mount, the Beatitudes, like what that actually looks like in practice. To get to watch that and witness that in person and then also in the show is it like has reminded me who Jesus is. The show is not it's not Jesus, but like it reminds us of who Jesus was and is.
Mhm.
And then that has made me like go back to the gospels and like reread these things that I did in childhood, that I loved in childhood. And I think it's so easy to get especially when in like your teens and your 20s, to like get really cynical about like religion. And I think it's important to remind yourself that like Jesus didn't come to like start a religion and a church, and then all of these churches like argue with each other about what's right and wrong. Like that's not what Jesus wanted. It's an internal thing. It's your heart, it's your soul, it's how you interact with people. Like the church is the people. It's the people. And I've seen Christian um behaviors from people that don't go to church, and I've seen very unchristian behaviors from people who do. And so I've made this peace with like people go to their churches however they want, but ultimately your actual direct and personal relationship with God and with Jesus is the thing that's the most important part of this. And if you gain and glean more connection by going to church, that is wonderful. If you don't, then there are these ways to connect still, and it ends up being about other people. It ends up being about caring for other people and putting other people before yourself, and letting go of these things we cling to, which is these like what we think are like our comfort things. It's vices, it's sin, it's like it's things that we oh, that's just who I am. I'm just a jealous person, or I'm just a greedy that's just, like these things that we have become so familiar with in ourselves
Mhm.
that we have to actually change. And those changes are really difficult. And this show shows what that can look like if you really completely change. We see that in like Gaius in
Yes.
season 4. We see this man who is culturally, religiously, socially not connected to Jesus in any way, shape, or form, other than he is supposed to be the enemy. But we see this change in his heart. We see this change in his soul, where he actually truly and genuinely believes. And we see what comes from that, this beautiful miracle. I don't know if I'm giving spoilers. Oh my goodness.
No, you're good
but
because I've
but
already seen that.
essentially we see what that belief actually looks like and how that can change someone's life, even though it is not socially or culturally the appropriate thing.
Yeah.
So I gone so off course here. So the show just brings up so many beautiful points that should not be lost just because someone from church was mean to you one time in the 6th grade. Like let go of all of that, because these stories are way more important than our personal opinions about specific churches and denominations.